So hi, this is Maisie Dunbar, Maisie Dunbar Spa Lounge. We're about to do a setup for our hair removal treatment. Underarm, bikini, legs, etc. We also have 6 different types of wax that we use in our facility because our waxing procedures are strictly about the waxing experience and the treatment of the skin. So here we have our not disposable sheet, our sanitary sheet. So what that means is you can pretty much sanitize the bed after each guest. So, but in addition to that, we always put paper on just in case we get some wax spilling. The wax will spill on the paper versus on the sheet. So you want to cut it just a little bit. You don't have to cut a full length of the bed because we're only using it for the guests to, for us to have if we have any spills. You always also want to have a pillow under here. If you do not put the pillow under the spa sheet, you want to come over here. We have pillowcases in here. You're going to grab a pillowcase, put the pillowcase on the pillow, making sure that you change the pillowcase after each and every guest. And you want to make sure that it's done. And then there are 2 areas where we have, actually 3 areas where we have disposable bikinis. If you find that this is empty or almost empty, which the esthetician and all of us are responsible for refilling, but most especially the esthetician because they work with this every day. So the disposable bikinis are always on the trolley, or you look in the cabinet, it will be on the second shelf as well. You'll find that on the second shelf, or the extras bulk will be where the bulk products are down below. So you want to put a disposable bikini there, and you also want to have wipes for the guests. I don't see any. You want to make sure you have wipes for the guests just in case they need to freshen up. You want to have a modesty towel for them as well. And if you find that the guest is coming towards the end of the day, let's say for example, if we have a guest like at 3 or 4 o'clock, you want to use one of the smaller hand towels that we only use for our Brazilian wax facials. You will wet that a little bit during the summer months. We make sure that it's cool, and during the winter months, we make sure that it's warm. Not hot, but warm. And to keep it warm, we keep it in the hot towel cubby. So let's say, for example, if we have a guest that's coming in at 10 a.m., when we're setting up at 9:30, if let's say we have 2 or 3 bikinis back to back, we would then put the towels in here. And then when you set it up, you don't want the wet towel to be on the paper because it's going to melt. So it's going to make it soft and it's going to break. So you want to put the wet towel on the bed itself. And when you bring the guest in the room, especially if it's a guest that is new, Kiana, can you hand me one of those towels behind you? So that's where the bikini towels I kept. They're pretty much this one, these smaller ones. But they're not like the hand towels. When we wash them, we try to keep them separate. So this is the one that you would wet, whether it's warm or whether it's cold, okay? And you put that on the bed itself. So when you bring them in the room, I may be busy, or the person may be busy, everybody may be busy, you may have to bring them in the room. When you bring them in the room, you want to assume they do not know what to do. So you want to kind of tell them, what we need you to do is to put this on, put the disposables on, and you want to tell them that the smaller side go to the front and the larger side go to the back. Because people open this and they're like, okay, what do I do with that? You'd be surprised. So you tell them that and let them know that the smaller towel is for them to freshen up, and they also have wipes to use if they choose to. And once they get on the bed, this is the modesty towel. They can just treat themselves with it. That's all you need to tell them. So this is the setup pretty much for bikini wax. Now, what we're going to do for Brazilian wax, we'll leave this, and leave this. For Brazilian wax, they actually don't need to have a bikini because they have to pretty much exposed, and it's removal of everything. So for Brazilian wax, same thing. You want to have your wipes, the freshen up towel, and a modesty towel. Although we're gonna be taking everything off, but we still want, when the technician walks into the room for the guests, we still want to make sure that the guests have some sort of modesty. So that we need to keep that in mind. So that's Brazilian, and this is bikini. Now for underarm wax. Well, actually, now for leg wax. For leg wax, you would keep this for them. Pretty much, if it's a full leg wax, then you want to use one of our, these are called skirts. They're called facial skirts, but you want to keep one of these out. You're going to kind of fold it so it's nice and neat, so when they walk into the room that it's neat. And you would just ask them to remove, if they have on a dress or whatever, ask them to put this on. And then if it's a leg wax, that's what they have to put on, so that way we don't get any wax on their clothing by accident, because sometimes accidents do happen. Same apply for underarm wax. If they're getting an underarm wax, you don't need the wax paper. So if they're getting an underarm wax, you would then just put this on the bed for them, and then when you bring them in the room, you just ask them to put this on and change, and then the esthetician, when she comes in, she will proceed with the waxing. Any questions about the waxing procedures?
What wax do I normally use on the legs?
What wax we normally use on the legs? Well, the wax that we use over 80% of the time actually is it's by Amber Wax. It's actually called it's called the Amber MD now, but years ago it was called PhD. The purpose of PhD is called personal hygiene. It comes with a tube looking almost like a toothpaste. You remove the cap. You put the applicator. It comes with an applicator, not a tube, but applicator. You put the applicator on, and you just kind of apply the wax almost like you do on the toothpaste. For larger areas of waxing, like legs and underarms, you can use it for underarms as well. But 90% of the time we use it for full legs, because it's easier, it's smoother, it's faster. For back waxing, we use it for back waxing as well. So, but the downside to that is it has to be plugged up. So if someone walks in and say, can I have, we don't keep it plugged up, because if you keep the tubes plugged up, after a while they get compromised and they're going to explode. So we don't want the tubes to explode because they make a messy wax machine. So we plug it up normally when a person, if we know we have someone coming in, we plug it up an hour prior to the reservation. We put it on 10 because it needs to be very hot so that the heat penetrates the plastic so that it kind of heats up and warms up the wax. So that's how we work with that. In terms of the underarm wax, we normally use the Veridon, either the wax for sensitive skin, or we use the hard wax that they have for our underarm waxing. Yep. Any questions? Any other questions?
Would I need to know the difference between the waxes, or would that just be for the person that's actually doing the waxing?
Okay. Dominique's question is, does an employee need to know the difference between the waxes? It's recommended to know the difference between the waxes only because it's not required as an assistant as your job, but it's highly recommended because if someone asks you a question, like what kind of wax you guys use here, you need to know the kinds of wax we use just so you're able to tell them what we use here. Because there's so many places out here that do waxing as a form of hair removal, and people have a negative response to waxing. So I think the education aspect of knowing the wax that we use here, yes, it does. It will help to know. But you're not going to say, oh, you're going to have to get this wax. Not anything like that. But just having the knowledge of what we carry is always a good thing to have. Any other questions? No, right? Okay, now, do you know how to set up this machine for skincare treatment? Okay, perfect. Pretty much, there's another video that I have that has the setup of how we set this machine up, so I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to have you watch it, but making sure when you turn on this machine for the esthetician, the machine first and foremost has to be plugged up. If the machine is not plugged up, it's really not, it's not gonna work. So we're gonna make sure the machine is plugged up. The plug is right here. Making sure it's plugged up. Making sure that there's enough water in here for the esthetician. And basically, how you add water to it, you open this up and you just pour this, making sure the water is also distilled water. And you put that on, and then you just turn this. Because once it's plugged up, the machine at that point is on. Okay? And once it's styled, if you come in and it's styled and you find that it's boiling, you can then turn it off. Like for me, before a guest comes in, if the guest is coming in, I try to turn on the machine about 20 minutes prior. So once the guests come in, the machine is pretty much ready. So once you come into the room and you turn it on, you don't have to wait for the machine to more or less percolate. Okay? So in this cabinet, basically what we have here, Dominique, is our, these are the body wrap sheets. The body wrap sheets can be washed, but they cannot be washed with detergent. They can only be washed with hot water. You can put them in the dryer, but you cannot put fabric softener in the dryer with it. Simply because once you wash these blankets with detergent, at that point we can no longer use it as an herbal blanket anymore. It kind of compromises the blanket. So we'll have to discard it or use it for something else, but we can't use it for body wraps anymore. So on the top you have 1, 2, 3, 4 body wrap sheets, and you have an extra one of these. So if you change this at the between guests, or you wipe it down and it needs to be dry into the washing machine, then you always have extras in here. So anything pertaining to body treatments you will find in this cabinet right here. These are called disposable sheets. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is pretty much show you guys how to set up for a body wrap. Okay, so we're going to set up pretty much for a basic body wrap. So you want to make sure the sheet is, the bed is comfortable. You want to have sheet on it instead of the disposable, instead of the waxing sheet. So you want to make sure you have this. Some people call this a spade sheet. Some people call it, I just call it a body wrap, a body treatment sheet. I know it looks like space. So you want to set it up with the silver part up and not the red part up. You want to make sure you have enough plastic to layer it as well. Okay. So depending on the size of the body, so if the technician knows the size of the guest that is coming, and they say, well, Kiana or Dominique, can you set up for a body wrap for me? I need more plastic. So you pretty much know that you need more plastic, because literally we have to cover the guests with each layer. Okay? So you would do that. And then the next step you need to set up with is you need your disposable brush. If it's an herbal body wrap, you also need your for this is just a body scrub. So for a body scrub, all you're gonna need is your disposable brush, your disposable undies, bra and panties. That's what you're gonna need for the guests. If it's for a body scrub, okay. If it's a body scrub as well as a mud treatment, and we're gonna mix it up, you're gonna need this. You're also gonna need your disposable garments, panties and bra. And if it's during the summer months and the person is getting a body scrub and a mud treatment, all we're going to do is put take an extra sheet. So when you exfoliate them, we're gonna wrap them, but you also want to have an extra sheet for the therapist. In the during the winter months, we put the sheet in the hot towel cubby so that everything is about warmth and the whole experience. But if it's hot outside, you don't want people to be too hot. Okay? If it's really hot outside and someone is getting a body treatment, you can take the socks that we use for the skincare setup. You can take these socks, put it in plastic, make sure they're separated, put it in the refrigerator so when they come in for their experience, you can kind of cool them off by putting the socks, a cool pair of socks on them. Okay? It's like a popsicle for your feet. That's how I look at it. Would you like a popsicle on your feet? They look at you like, what? Like, stay tuned, popsicle's coming. So that's that. So for your herbal linen wrap, the setup is pretty much the same. You just want to make sure you have gloves for the technician because the herbal wrap is extremely hot. So we want to make sure we have gloves for the technician. We also want to make sure we have the brush, the exfoliating brush, because you always want to dry brush on the guest. The purpose of the dry brushing, it does two things. One, it starts the circulation, and two, it gets the dead skin layer off and it gets the body circulating to penetrate the product and exfoliate the skin and release the body of toxins. So you want to make sure you have your buffing cloth, and this you need for taking, the technician is going to need for taking the blanket out of the machine. The purpose of this buffing cloth, we use this buffing cloth during for our exfoliating treatments, like our Dunbar Beach body scrub, our lights out body bam treatment. Those treatments are a combination of exfoliation as well as a mud is treated to the skin to kind of contour and treat the skin. So the guest gets this buffing cloth that is placed in the shower. So when they do go to the shower, they can use the buffing cloth kind of like this to get their bags and because it's long enough. And the buffing cloth can be, you keep it sanitized by putting it in the washing machine, and you can sterilize it, or you can just, because you sell them, you can tell the guests that they don't need to put it in the dryer. They can put it in the washing machine at home, but they don't need to put it in the dryer. So this is the setup pretty much for the treatments that we have here. For the most part, the skincare treatment, I've already showed you how to do the setup for that, and it's pretty much the same thing, making sure the bed is nice and neat. And I think I already did a training video on how we do our setup for the skincare. So I'm not going to go through that since we already have that. But the waxing is the same. The body treatments, definitely, this is how we set up for it. Making sure that the linens and everything are put in neatly. I know I'm OCD, as they say, but I think I'm people say I'm type A plus, I say I'm type A. So I know that I'm type A, I know that I'm OCD, so everything has to be in order for me, because it's a lot easier for me to walk into the room knowing that the room is already set up, I can get in and get my job done. And for any technician coming behind me, I want to make sure that they can get in and get the job done, and they're out here. Okay? So that's it. Again, I'm Maisie Dunbar. Check us out on the web at MaisieDunbarSpaLounge.com. Like us on Facebook because we love to socialize. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Twitter. See what we're doing in the DC area. And if you need some training at your spa and making your staff a type A staff, just give me a call and I can hook you up. I'll see you at the top.